Throwaway because my husband knows my main account, and I honestly don't even know if I'm overreacting or if something is actually going on. I, female 38, have been married to my husband Trevor, male 40, for 12 years. We met in graduate school. I was getting my teaching degree, and he was studying finance. I saw him for the first time in a coffee shop near campus. He came over to ask if the outlet near my table worked. It didn't, but I offered to share my power strip. God, that sounds so cheesy, but I swear that's actually how we met. Anyway, we dated through grad school and then did long distance for almost a year when he got his first job at an investment firm 3 hours away. It was hard, like really hard. We'd take turns driving to see each other on weekends. When I finished my degree, I moved to be with him, which my mom Linda was not happy about. She said I was abandoning my support system and putting a man before my career, which wasn't fair because I got a teaching job there too, but whatever. My mom has always been weird about Trevor anyway. So fast forward to now, we have a 9-year-old daughter, Zoe, who loves gymnastics but struggles with reading. I spend hours helping her with homework while Trevor is, well, I'll get to that. We bought our house 6 years ago in a decent school district. I teach high school English and just became department chair last year, which means more work but barely any more money. Trevor works at the same investment firm but got promoted to senior financial analyst about 10 months ago. And that's when everything started changing. Look, I'm not some crazy jealous wife, seriously. But the promotion changed things. At first, it was just working late a few nights a week, which was annoying, but whatever, I get it. Then it was monthly client meetings out of town. He started being weird with his phone, changed his password after never having one before, takes calls in another room or goes outside, and he's just different, distant, like checked out most of the time. I honestly thought it was just work stress for the longest time. Terry, my sister, female, 42, brought it up at our wine night a few months ago, asking what's going on with Trevor because he seemed off. And I defended him. I said his new position was really demanding and he was adjusting to the pressure. I feel so stupid now. So about 6 weeks ago, Trevor comes home at like 11:30 p.m. from what he called a team dinner. The second he walks in, I smell this perfume on him. Not like a hint of it. It was strong and definitely not something I wear. Ever. I mentioned that he smelled like perfume and he just shrugged and said it was probably from someone at the restaurant. I pointed out it was specifically on his shirt collar, not just a general smell. Then he changed his story and said he hugged Robin goodbye. So it must be hers. Robin is some marketing person at his firm. I asked why he was suddenly hugging colleagues so tightly. Their perfume was transferring to his clothes and he got all defensive. He asked why I was creating problems and if I was really this paranoid. When I brought up how he's been acting different lately, he stormed off saying he didn't need this after a long day. When I followed him to ask why he was being so defensive, he slept in our home office that night. Who does that? If they have nothing to hide. After that, I started noticing more things. Like finding a hotel receipt in his jacket pocket for a night. He said he was at a conference downtown, except the hotel wasn't anywhere near the conference center. And there were weird charges on our credit card for restaurants I'd never heard of, and some gift purchases that I definitely never received. Oh, and I saw a text notification pop up on his phone from someone saved as just R with a heart emoji. Just a glimpse before he snatched his phone away. I know how this sounds. I swear I'm not normally a suspicious person. I kept making excuses in my head, like maybe the conference hotel was booked up. Maybe the gifts were surprises for my birthday, which is next month. Maybe R is Ryan from his fantasy football league and the heart was a joke. God, I sound pathetic. I really tried to fix things. I suggested date nights that he'd cancel last minute. I brought up couples therapy and he said it was unnecessary. I even planned a weekend getaway for our anniversary and he said he couldn't go because of a client presentation. I found out later that presentation never happened. I was talking to Mark, one of his coworkers, at the company picnic and mentioned it casually, and Mark had no idea what I was talking about. The breaking point was last week. Zoe had this piano recital she'd been practicing for forever. Trevor promised he'd be there, then called last minute saying he had an emergency work meeting and couldn't make it. Zoe was heartbroken. Then that night I'm scrolling through Instagram and see a post from his coworker Jason showing a bunch of them, including Robin, at their regular Thursday happy hour, tagged with the time showing it was during Zoe's recital. I can't keep pretending everything is fine. My sister Terry suggested I hire a private investigator, which seemed extreme at first. But yesterday I found a receipt for jewelry from this high-end place downtown. $750. I've never seen this jewelry, ever. I think I'm going to call the PI Terry recommended. Am I crazy for doing this? Part of me feels like I'm overreacting, but another part feels like I already know what's happening and just need proof. Edit. Thank you all for the supportive comments. To answer some questions, no, I haven't confronted him about the Instagram post yet. I'm afraid he'll just have some excuse ready and make me feel crazy again. A few people have asked if Trevor has always been secretive. No, that's what makes this so weird. He used to be an open book. Phone always left around, shared passwords for everything, would tell me random details about his day. The change has been dramatic. Someone asked about our sex life. Weird, but okay. It's basically non-existent now. Always too tired or too stressed, which I believed because of the promotion. But it's been months at this point. About the jewelry, I did check our closet/drawers thinking maybe it was hidden for my birthday, but found nothing. And my birthday is still weeks away. Why would he already have the receipt in his pocket? Now for the first update. First, thank you everyone for all the comments and support on my last post. I was honestly not expecting so many responses, so I decided to actually hire that PI my sister recommended. Let's call him Ian. I felt so weird doing it, like I was in some bad movie or something. I literally cleared my browser history after Googling how to catch cheating spouse, even though I was home alone. I had to withdraw $20,500 from my personal savings account for Ian's retainer. It's money I've been putting aside for years in my just-in-case fund that Trevor doesn't even know about. I kept telling myself it was worth it, but I was terrified I was wasting money we could use for Zoe's college fund. I gave Ian all of Trevor's info, his work schedule, the times he said he was working late, the hotel receipt I found, descriptions of Robin, etc. I almost broke down crying when I was telling him about the perfume on Trevor's shirt. Ian was really professional about it though. He just passed me a tissue and said, "This part is always difficult," which made me wonder how many women like me he sees every week. The 2 weeks of waiting were torture. Trevor announced another overnight client meeting 3 days after I hired Ian, and it took everything in me not to scream at him. I just smiled and said, "Have a good trip," like I apparently am. I almost called Ian to cancel the whole thing twice. The first time was when Trevor surprised me with tickets to see The National, my favorite band, and said he'd bought them months ago. But something felt off. Then again, after we actually had sex for the first time in forever, and he seemed like his old self. We even cuddled after. God, I'm so stupid. Anyway, Ian called me last Friday asking to meet in person to go over his findings. I felt sick immediately. I told work I had a doctor's appointment and met him at his office at 2 p.m. Ian had been following Trevor for about 10 days and found a lot. He placed photos on his desk showing Trevor with a woman. I immediately recognized her as Robin from the company Christmas party, and apparently my husband. I asked if maybe they were just having work meetings. I know, but I was desperately looking for any explanation. Then Ian showed me time-stamped photos of them kissing in Trevor's car in some hotel parking garage, and others of them holding hands walking into a hotel and coming out hours later. I had to excuse myself to the bathroom where I threw up everything I'd eaten that day. Sorry, that's gross, but it's what happened. When I came back, Ian had more. He had evidence they'd met at hotels 3 separate times during the investigation period. He had credit card statements showing Trevor bought her jewelry, the $750 purchase I found, dinners, even lingerie, using our joint account. Robin is married to Thomas, who is Trevor's boss, his direct supervisor, the company's CFO. So Trevor is not just cheating on me, he's cheating with his boss's wife. What the actual fuck? Ian somehow even had screenshots of texts between them. He was weirdly vague about how he got those, but whatever. There was one where Trevor wrote, "Can't wait to see you tomorrow," with a bunch of emojis that made me want to throw up again. I just sat there feeling nothing at first. Then I felt anger, humiliation, grief. I cried in front of Ian, which was mortifying, but he just gave me tissues and said, "Take your time." I called in sick to work the next day. I couldn't face my students. I asked Terry to pick up Zoe from school and take her for ice cream so I could have a few hours alone. Then I started researching. I looked up divorce attorneys in our area. I read about Virginia's adultery laws. I made spreadsheets about what my finances would look like as a single mom. To those who suggested this in my last post, you were right. The numbers are scary, but not impossible. I kept going back and forth about whether to confront Trevor directly. Part of me wanted to scream at him. Part of me wanted to be calculating. I realized something important. Thomas probably has no idea about the affair. So I compiled everything. All the photos Ian took, a timeline of their meetings, hotel receipts, credit card statements showing all the gifts I never received, those text messages, a brief letter explaining who I was and why I was sending this information. And then I waited. Trevor left yesterday morning for what he said was a 3-day business trip to Chicago. Ian confirmed it was actually a getaway with Robin to some lakeside resort paid for using Trevor's company credit card. Last night at 11:30 p.m., after Zoe was asleep, I sent it all to Thomas's work email. Everything. Then I took a sleeping pill, turned off my phone, and finally got the first decent night's sleep I've had in weeks. I'm terrified and relieved at the same time. I don't know what happens next, but at least I'm not crazy. At least I know the truth. Edit. Holy shit, this blew up overnight. I just woke up and my inbox is flooded. To answer the most common questions, I didn't tell Trevor I know yet. I wanted Thomas to have the information first. Thomas deserves to know his wife is cheating on him with his employee. For people saying I should have confronted Trevor first, maybe, but after months of lying to me and making me feel crazy for my suspicions, I don't feel I owe him anything. Some of you are concerned about my safety. Thank you. I'm okay. Trevor has never been physically aggressive, and my sister knows everything and is checking in regularly. To the people asking about the company policy, yes, they definitely have one about relationships between employees. Trevor made fun of it once when another employee got in trouble for dating someone in another department. Yes, I realize sending evidence to Thomas might have serious consequences for Trevor's job. Honestly, that wasn't my primary concern when I hit send. After lying to me for months, missing Zoe's recital for his affair, and using our family money to buy his girlfriend gifts, I'm having trouble finding sympathy. A few people asked about how I found Ian. My sister Terry used him during her divorce 3 years ago. Her ex was also cheating. Ian was expensive, but very professional and discreet. And yes, 100% worth every penny of my emergency fund. Now for the second update. So a lot has happened since my last post. Like a lot. I'm still kind of in shock about how fast everything went down, and still is going down, to be honest. Okay, so after I sent all the evidence to Thomas, my husband's boss who is married to Robin, the woman Trevor was cheating with, I took a sleeping pill and turned off my phone. I honestly had the best sleep I'd had in months, like I finally wasn't lying there wondering if I was crazy or overthinking things. I woke up around 9 a.m. the next morning, feeling weirdly calm. I made coffee, sat on the couch, and finally turned my phone back on. Holy shit. My phone literally wouldn't stop buzzing for like a full minute with notifications. I had 30+ missed calls. 17 from Trevor, 5 from Thomas, 4 from numbers I didn't recognize, 3 from Robin herself, and even 1 from Trevor's mom who never calls me, and like a million text messages. I was honestly overwhelmed just looking at the notifications screen. My hands were shaking so bad I almost dropped my phone. I started with Trevor's voicemails. The first one was from early morning where he sounded confused about why Thomas was asking about Robin. Then they got more panicked, with him demanding to know what I did and telling me to call him because Thomas called an emergency meeting. The later ones were angry, saying I ruined everything. Then he started begging me to call him back so he could explain. I skimmed through some texts and found out that Thomas had called Trevor into an emergency meeting with HR first thing in the morning. Trevor was completely caught off guard because he and Robin were still at that lakeside resort he lied about going to Chicago for. Thomas had apparently forwarded all my evidence to HR and Trevor's company email. Turns out Trevor was fired, like immediately, for ethical misconduct, misuse of company resources, and creating a hostile work environment. Apparently, charging your affair expenses to the company card is frowned upon. Who knew? I called my sister Terry right away. She could tell something was wrong from my voice and came right over. For those who asked in my last post, yes, Terry is my rock through all this. I called in sick to work, again, because there was no way I could face a classroom of teenagers while my life was falling apart. I also arranged for Zoe to stay with her friend Tanya's family for a sleepover. I know some of you said I shouldn't keep Zoe away from home during this, but I knew a confrontation was coming, and I didn't want her anywhere near it. She's already dealing with enough, and as many of you pointed out, kids pick up on way more than we think. Trevor came home around 2 p.m. I was sitting on the couch waiting. I swear my heart was beating super fast. He looked awful. Unshaven, wrinkled clothes, bloodshot eyes. He basically burst through the door. When he came in, he immediately started yelling at me, asking what I was thinking. I stayed calm and asked if he was denying the affair with Robin. He tried to claim it was just a fling and not serious, but then I showed him the printed photos I'd made copies of before sending everything to Thomas. They showed him and Robin kissing, holding hands, and going into hotels. Trevor got really pale, then angry again. He accused me of spying on him and hiring someone to follow him. He called it insane and an invasion of privacy. I told him he'd been lying to me for months and made me feel crazy every time I asked about working late, the perfume, or the gifts. He tried to blame me, saying I pushed him away with my constant suspicion. I laughed and told him his suspicious behavior came before I ever questioned anything. That's when he finally admitted it had been going on for 7 months. 7 months. Almost our entire year. All those missed recitals and canceled date nights and work emergencies while he was with her. When I asked if he loved her, he claimed it was mostly physical, but then admitted there was an emotional attachment. I told him I knew about him using company funds for their getaways. He broke down then, saying he'd lost everything, his job, his reputation, and now possibly his marriage. I noticed he listed his job first and marriage last. I asked when he was planning to end the affair, and he admitted he hadn't thought that far ahead. That's when I told him I'd already contacted a divorce attorney. He immediately started begging for another chance, saying he could change, that it was a mistake, that he'd do anything. I just couldn't. After everything, the lies, the missing Zoe's recital for his affair, spending our money on gifts for her, I was just done. During our heated argument, he told me more about what happened at work. Apparently, Robin got sent to stay with her parents, while Thomas figures out what to do about their marriage. Trevor got escorted from the building by security, had his company laptop and access card confiscated, and rumors were already spreading throughout the firm. Apparently, a bunch of people saw him being walked out. And then something really unexpected happened. Thomas called me later that afternoon. I almost didn't answer, but I was curious. He was actually really decent. He apologized for the awkward situation, but thanked me for having the courage to tell him the truth, which honestly made me feel weird because I wasn't thinking about helping him when I sent that email. I was just angry. Then he told me something shocking. They're doing an internal audit and found out Trevor had been falsifying expense reports to cover affair expenses. Like a lot. Almost $12,000 over 6 months. Thomas said they could potentially press charges, but probably won't if Trevor cooperates with the separation process. I'm still trying to process all this. It's so much bigger than I expected. Trevor's professional reputation is completely destroyed. Industry people already know he got fired. Robin is dealing with her own marriage crisis because Thomas moved out of their house. And I'm getting calls and texts from confused friends asking what happened and why Trevor might not be at upcoming events. I know many of you said to blast him publicly, but I'm trying to be discreet. Not for his sake, but for Zoe's. And also because I don't want to be the crazy oversharing ex-wife, you know? The hardest part was telling Zoe that we're separating. I didn't vilify Trevor, even though part of me wanted to. I just told her that Dad made some poor choices that hurt our family, and we need some time apart. She cried a lot and asked a million questions I wasn't prepared for. It's so hard to balance honesty with what's appropriate for a 9-year-old to hear. Trevor packed some stuff and moved to a hotel. He agreed to give me space while we figure out next steps. I met with a divorce attorney yesterday, thanks to those who recommended getting one as soon as possible in my last post. She said Trevor's documented infidelity and financial impropriety will likely give me favorable terms for custody and financial settlements. So there's that, I guess. I honestly don't know what happens next. I feel vindicated, but also sad. Like I'm relieved to know I wasn't crazy, but devastated that our 12-year marriage was basically a lie. I'm scared about starting over at 38, being a single mom, what this means for Zoe. but I'm also finding out I'm stronger than I thought. Trevor texts me constantly. Apologies one minute, then accusations that I overreacted and didn't need to blow up his entire life the next. Thomas actually offered to provide testimony about Trevor's misconduct, if needed for divorce proceedings, but I'm hoping we can keep things as amicable as possible for Zoe's sake.